Hey guys, it's Maha here. Today I'm going to talk about the July 9th, 2020 development update. Now, I know I'm a day late for this, but I thought it's better late than never. So let's get started. You've got the Microsoft Flight Simulator team starting off with a screenshot of their graphics, which looks pretty nice to me, and a message from them saying, as the month of July continues, our next big deliverable has arrived. Alpha 5 has been released and closed beta has moved into final testing. And then they wish everyone the best of health and happiness. Sounds good to me. Now, this update has improved content, bug fixes, and updated list of known issues. All planes have received another round of polish and tuning. We continue to triage bugs and reset priorities when needed. You should also find an updated round of polish to the world, airports, scenery, and the weather. Now for the improved content, for the flight model, you've got the engine effects on all propeller planes. They have been improved for P factor, torque, gyro, precision, and prop wash. The flap lift and the drag adjustments across all planes remained. Now for the Bonanza G36, belly landing is possible. Overall, the A320 fly-by-wire improvement continued. The TBM 930 engine torque adjustments were made. And ongoing improvement to the ground effect formula to improve the overall realism. Now for the TBM 930, you've got the radio altimeter would continue to give indications regardless of the set bank angle. And for certain airports like the Orlando Melbourne International Airport, they had the taxiway signs were missing, or they had them far away from the runway. And we've got the Marrakesh Airport and the Nuremberg Airport. They both had the same issue, which had several buildings that were unidentified and they were missing, so they had to be corrected. Now for peripherals, there were some pilots reporting difficulty to understand or figure out how to delete their individual peripheral mappings. So they worked on improving that, and also the X52 Pro was reported as non-intuitive. And also the X52 Pro was reported as non-intuitive, and they made efforts to improve the mappings and the trim controls to help. Now for the weather, you've got inconsistencies which were reported between what was listed on the load screen and what appeared in the game. And that actually annoyed me throughout the whole game, so I'm glad they fixed it. Now there are specific changes and improvements for each plane. For the A320neo, there was a vertical speed improvement. There was no longer using pitch to aim target speed, but corrected to use thrust instead. You have the VS no longer decreased upon activation of VS mode. Stall warning no longer triggers when alpha protection. Speed mode now correctly toggles when reaching the cruise altitude. Fixed that the aircraft was sometimes not following its approach when reaching a transition. Engaging the AP1 button when would also engage AP2. This no longer is true. You've got the autopilot was too aggressive, and they changed that. Engines used to shut down when adjusting fuel mid-flight. Improvements to APPR mode fixed some issues when it was not working correctly. And they had a regression issue found in how the plane would level off in the last update. Now this is working properly. Now we've got the B747-8i. For the vertical speed improvements, they are now behaving as expected and would cause the plane to climb and descend erratically. Using alt mode would still allow control of the vertical speed selection. Now there was animation issues with the wheels and they got fixed. They also found when spawning the aircraft, the front wheel would sometimes spawn in the air, and now it got corrected. The FLT number now uses up to 7 characters as expected. Overspeed warning no longer announces when under the cruise speed, and speed protections are now working. Auto throttle was not reaching the target speed during climb. They also worked on aircraft overshooting turns when following the flight plan. The checklist is no longer missing the steps but enable the engine generators, and adjusting the trim was having no effect in the flight. Now you've got improvements for the DA40, the Bonanza G36, and the TBM 932. Now you've got airport specific changes too. For example, the Beijing Capital International Airport, there was no large green texture on the ground. Or on the Orlando Airport, there was no landing ribbons that would remain solid. You've got also the service vehicles fall from the sky when departing from parking 20 at the Paro Airport. You've got also for the Paro airport, there were vehicles falling from the sky when departing from the parking 20. You've got improvements done to all planes in general, like the autopilot was causing many aircraft to rock from left to right when on. You had the landing gear alert that was spamming when 16,000 MLS. For airliners, the max speed management, they found issues that were affecting overall airliner performance that are now fixed. Mach numbers could now be more consistent. You've got the vertical speed logic improved. The aircraft was pretty much only following the vertical speed and would not adjust for speed. This was having a negative effect on the autopilot functionality. You've got airliners should now be managing speed correctly. This was previously causing the aircraft to overshoot their designated speeds. Now for live air traffics, they were only representing one or no planes during free flight, and also the navigation lights used to detach from the live planes. They were also missing pilots in the live planes, and now there isn't any of these problems. For the cameras, there was the third-person camera that would shake when performing a 45-degree turn, or the multiple instrument camera controls were lacking functionality. Also, the user would get stuck while looking at instruments combined with the right-click plus drag-free look in cockpit view. Also, the user would get stuck while looking at instruments combined with the right-click plus drag-free look in cockpit view. So now for the flight director, it wasn't always in sync with the activation of the FD button at the start of the flight. Also, the users were unable to turn off the flight detector in some aircrafts during the flight. For the cockpit and instrumentations, you've got the issues fixed with the altimeter jumping during flights. Now for the cockpits and instrumentation, the issues about the altimeter jumping during flight got fixed. And also the auto-turning the NAV radio on the G1000 used to default to NAV1 instead of the selected radio. And the approach drawn after setting the direct to classic flight plan was not correct. Now for the G1000, the auto-tuning the NAV radio was on default to NAV1 instead of a selected radio. Also, the approach drawn after the setting the direct to or classic flight plan was not correct. This all got fixed, and you've got the glass cockpits. They had tooltips which were corrected. For the multiplayers, there were issues that were preventing pilots from seeing each other's planes during the flight. Also, when there were existing friends, they wouldn't display as disconnected even though they were launching in a game. They also made changes to the custom weather settings, which was not applying those changes to all group members in a multiplayer session. Now for the known issues, for example, you've got the A320neo, the aircraft speed does not maintain when changing altitude in the managed mode. Also, the NAV mode only activates when also activating the autopilot. And for the B747-8i, Autobank gives bank angles that are too low, and once you speed dark it changed to Mach, multiple interactions are then required to get your speed to follow the target. You've got also known issues for the DA40NG, the Grand Caravan, and TBM 930. Now for multiplayers, they are currently missing a notification when adding users to a group that is larger than capacity. And for the peripherals, there's still so many keyboard controls that are still missing, and they're still trying to improve with time. For the weather, you've got the snow. It doesn't last that much on the ground surfaces as, it should. And then you've got a new wave of alpha invitations being sent today. Now you've got the closed beta that is scheduled to release on the 30th of July. Now I'm personally very excited for this. Now as a reminder, if you're currently an alpha tester, you'll be automatically granted access to the closed beta. If you're not currently an alpha tester, we'll be sending out new invitations for closed beta participations. I'm crossing my fingers. I hope I get one of these invitations. And over here, you've got a feedback snapshot for the top questions like the aircraft list, airport list, fully functional airports, and you've got the top alpha issues. And you've got the top wish list like an ADC, gliders, helicopters. So the next update's going to be on the 16th of July, and that's all we have for today. If you're new to this channel, please press the subscribe button or the bell icon down below. And if you have any questions, please write it down. And that's all. Thank you guys for listening, and peace.